research actually shows that for every one negative exchange, you have to have 5 positive for there to be an actual energetic balance. And this is what we do with our clients. He made more money than he had ever made in that annual basis just by what he believes was working on his brain health. One of our number one patterns that we see on any of our brain maps is the overactive, overstimulated, stressed out brain.
What percentage of people would you say are either self-diagnosed or later diagnosed with ADHD versus not?
80%, 90% of people I see with an ADD, ADHD diagnosis do not have a true neurological pattern.
You are literally slamming on the gas pedal trying to get yourself to go 60 miles an hour and your brain can't do it.
What's the best way for people to strengthen their memory and reduce their cognitive decline?
When you are putting friction in your life intentionally, that is the very thing that will actually help build those blocks that you need as a foundation for aging.
Do emotions lead your neurochemistry, or does your neurochemistry lead your emotions?
That's a fantastic question.
Before we get into this epic interview, I have one quick ask. Well, we've had the privilege of reaching millions of people on the show. The data shows that almost 80% of you guys who watch the show aren't yet subscribed. So if you could do me one quick favor and click that subscribe button right now, it would mean the absolute world to us. Because when you hit subscribe, not only are you allowing us to grow the show, get bigger guests, ask better questions, but you're allowing us to honor our commitment to do everything in our power to help you take your life, your business, your health, your relationships to that next level. And with no further ado, enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast. Today, by popular demand, we have none other than brain experts Angie Noak and Rachel Lambert, who are back for a round 2. And today we're going to be delving into micro topics on the brain and how you can optimize your brain function. So with no further ado, you ladies ready to talk about the brain?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right. So we actually set up, after our first interview, some questions, and people wrote in and inquired. So a lot of people have questions about functionality, ADHD, sleep, peak performance. The first question I have for you guys that was written in is, how does neurofeedback help with anxiety on a neurological level? So part of what you guys do is take brain maps to help people identify parts of their brain that can be optimized. So say you guys find something in terms of their anxiety kicking in. How can someone actually use the neurological feedback to help with that anxiety?
One of our number one patterns that we see on any of our brain maps is the overactive, overstimulated, stressed out brain. If you do not have stress as one of the number one focuses in your life truly, then you must be living a different life. Like, we all experience so much stress, so much overwhelm, so much overstimulated. Just by nature, our society is overstimulating. Mm-hmm. And so for the neurofeedback, oftentimes it's really simple. We're down regulating an overproduction of high beta, which is directly linked to stress, impulsivity, anxiety, hypervigilance, overthinking. So the brainwave called high beta is our fastest brainwave that our brain naturally produces. So if and when you're in a high beta state, it feels like you're going 120 to 200 miles an hour down the highway. It's physiologically very uncomfortable. So when that brainwave gets too high or fast in our clientele's brains, that is going to be related to those symptoms that they struggle with. So what we do is we set up our protocols to teach the brain how to slow down and dysregulate that specific brainwave so it comes down into a smaller voltage essentially. Mm-hmm. And we obviously do that by teaching the brain via reward how to do that over the course of time. So it's, again, kind of like a muscle memory. We're teaching the brain how to not be overstimulated, how to not be stressed out through our neurofeedback.
And for people who are just hearing about, sort of what you guys do with brain and mapping, the brain code centers, what is high level a sort of brain map and neurofeedback, just as we delve into this for people who might be hearing about this for the first time?
Yeah, so a brain map is a quantitative electroencephalogram. So similar to an EEG, it is a scan of the brain so that we can see the electrical and neurological wave activity happening in the brain. And literally everything is going to show itself to us in neurological patterns. Anxiety, depression, ADD, trauma, PTSD, brain injury, sleep issues. All of those things manifest themselves within patterns, and that's what we're going to be able to see. And it doesn't matter when we do the brain map. You could be having the best day you've had in forever, or it could be kind of a crummy day. I'm not only looking at what your brain is producing at that moment, we're looking at the patterns that your brain has ingrained over the last 30 years. Mm-hmm.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's what the brain map is. The actual neurofeedback is the treatment that comes after that. So neurofeedback is a way to operantly condition and train the brain to create new neural pathways, to help you self-regulate, to help you eliminate, if anything, unfavorable symptomology.
Mm-hmm. Which can manifest in many a way.
That's right.
I know we just talked about anxiety. What about people wrote in on what about mental clarity and focus? Is there a way to actually, so much in this generation is about scrolling. People talk about ADHD. Even very successful people struggle, with the amount of screen time they have. Yeah. What advice do you guys have on how to optimize around ADHD for optimal brain function and focus?
ADHD is an interesting one in that it is probably the most misdiagnosed thing that I see. Also, though, ADD, ADHD, it's a set of symptoms, right? And, okay, X, Y, Z, I have all of these symptoms, therefore I have this diagnosis, whether it's diagnosed by a professional or self-diagnosis, probably more self-diagnosis, social media, everybody has ADD, ADHD. A true neurological pattern for ADD or ADHD is actually overproduction of theta wave activity in the brain, which is the second to slowest wave. That is why Adderall, Ritalin are stimulants. They speed the brain up so that that person can focus. Honestly, probably 80%, 90% of people I see with an ADD, ADHD diagnosis do not have a true neurological pattern. Their brain would not pair well with a stimulant. And I hear that all the time. Well, I tried Adderall and I had horrible anxiety. Well, I tried Adderall and I had insomnia after. Well, yeah, because that med did not pair well with your brain. No one did a brain map or a scan to be able to see exactly what your brain pattern was. You filled out a set of symptoms. Those symptoms can manifest themselves within about 20 or 30 different neurological patterns. So first off, know what your neurological pattern is so that you can know exactly how to optimize that. Neurofeedback is absolutely a way to be able to help train and help change your neurochemistry so that your brain is able to focus better, so that your brain is able to be self-regulated, so that you are able to have task completion. All of those things your brain is capable of doing on its own. It just doesn't know how yet.
What does ADHD look like on a brain map?
There's 5 different brain states that everyone is capable of. Delta, deep, slow, restorative sleep. Theta, drifting into sleep. Alpha is kind of a receptor, a wave that helps push your brain up into the fast. It moves it into the slow, kind of a gear shifter in a car. Beta, clean, focused energy. High beta is fight or flight. And Rachel can go into this a little bit more, but truly theta is an ADD pattern. ADD is overproduction of theta wave activity in the brain.
Yeah, basically when we're looking at the scans that we do with our individuals, theta would be 2, 3, 4 standard deviations overactive if you took a statistics class, and beta might be 1, 2, 3 standard deviations underactive. So what it feels like, right, is that you're actually going 30 miles an hour down a highway. And so this is why some people get confused. They're like, wait, my brain, I'm confused because I'm overstimulated. I can't get stuff done. I get really scatterbrained. I thought that my brain's just like all over the place. It feels like your brain is all over the place, but it's because the world is moving incredibly quick around you. You are literally slamming on the gas pedal, trying to get yourself to go 60 miles an hour, and your brain can't do it. So you're just getting hyper distracted with everything that's flooding around you. It's
Reaction
also very
mode.
anxiety producing, right? And so when you help explain it to clients like that from a really like neurological lens, they're like, wow, that actually is so right, because I'm also really easily tired, and I just like my social cup gets overstimulated quickly. So what we're trying to teach our clients to do is actually speed up and go 60 to 70 miles an hour on the highway, and then down regulate, because then once you get off the highway and go on the side streets, you should be going 30 to 40 miles an hour, right? Not recklessly driving 60, 80. And really, we look at it so simplistically. Many of us just operate with very, very dysfunctional speeds in your car. You should be able to have full control over the gas pedal and know exactly what speed you need to go, that you're the one in control and not your brain just constantly taking control over you.
What percentage of people do you see that do, because you guys have done thousands of brain scans, over a course of years, what percentage of people would you say are either self-diagnosed or later diagnosed with ADHD versus not?
Oh man, I bet you 70% of clients that come in either with the self-diagnosis or they think they're ADHD or Maybe even they did like a written test with their, prescribing doc. No, not ADHD. Now they reflect all of the symptoms that might mimic that from a diagnostic standpoint. They're distracted. They can't get things done. They're thinking outside of the box. They're emotionally reactive, but it's for a completely different root cause why. So we're still going to address the person sitting in the chair, right? Sometimes I think we get so attached to our diagnosis or a label, and we really just hold on to that because it makes so much sense for us. And we're not going to challenge that per se. We're still going to help the client with their goal and their objectives that they want. But we might take a completely different approach in which to get that outcome.
Okay. And then, like, say, for example, you guys help people with this, right? They do a brain map, they sign up, they get a consultation, they learn more. They identify, okay, these are key areas to work on. You guys can obviously see things high level without even having to talk to them, right? A brain scan or brain map, can show that, hey, you're probably having issues with sleep. You're probably having issues with mental performance, cognitive focus, etc. You guys mentioned neurofeedback, right? Once people do the brain map, they get some feedback. What are some practical things that they can do to sort of start getting that mental clarity, start getting sharper, better, less restricted by things like ADHD? I guess on a practical step-by-step basis, I know in the prior interview we talked about breath work. Any other practical tips before we dive into some of these other areas that people can help with their mental clarity and focus in?
For ADHD, we also talked about bilateral stimulation tapping on the first one. Go listen to that if you haven't. That's a really, really, really great tool.
Which is basically tapping on one side and the other?
Yep, tapping on your right and your left hemisphere. This is a really big one for ADHD. I like to do it on the actual temples for ADHD because it just really gets your frontal lobe engaged. I think thought dumping is so critical, both for the overstimulated, overthinking brain, but also for the ADHD brain. You can't be disorganized and all over the place if you are forcing yourself to write out whatever's going on in your head in the first place. And so thought dumping and actually writing with a pen, either what you're stressed out about or what you need to get done today or what you're worrying about or whatever it is that's stopping you from, getting dialed in and focused in the first place. If you let that stuff out of your physiological system through the passing of a pen, promise you're going to get dialed in much quicker. So that's one of my favorite, and I'm sure Angie has some good ones too.
So ADHD is, if you think of right brain versus left brain, somebody with ADHD is probably more right brain. Their brain is swimming in a little bit more feeling, a little bit more emotion, a little bit more creativity. To be a truly optimized person, we need the left side of our brain and the right side of our brain communicating effectively. We do this as babies by learning to crawl. So crawling is a way for both hemispheres of our brain to start to work together. As adults, we don't necessarily have automatic things that we do. So there's actually an exercise called cross crawling that you can do to help do that. And it's literally bringing elbow to knee, elbow to knee. You can do it standing, you can do it sitting. Doing that for about 2 minutes every single day, or before you walk into a meeting, or before you need to do work on a project for a few hours, that's going to it's going to get your prefrontal cortex online, and it's going to start bringing both hemispheres of your brain together to start working more efficiently and communicating better. You can also, burpees is actually a really great way to do that. Probably you prefer cross crawling over burpees, but you do you. If burpees are your thing, do some burpees. All of those things are going to start to bring your hemispheres together.
I love that. And then in terms of, one question we got was in terms of mental performance for high achievers. What about brain training, right? You guys are talking about some great practical tips from, tapping to breath work to, what you just mentioned. But in terms of brain training, say there's high achievers out there watching this or thinking, I'm already killing it in business. I'm already killing it in life. I'm already optimized, so to speak. Yeah. What are some things you guys have seen working with high level achievers and how brain training has, helped bridge gaps that maybe didn't naturally meet the eye per se, right? And maybe some area outside of business.
So first off, if you took 15 really in shape people and you were like, nah, you're all set. No more gym for you. You've crushed it. You've made it. You're the best. Come on. Like you are, why do you not want to make your brain like the fittest freaking organ that you have at your disposal in the first place? Yeah. So like stop lying to yourself. But you can always get 1, 2, 3% better. And we help countless people with exactly that goal. What does that look like for you, right? Typically, when you are a high performer, a lot of your decisions carry a lot more weight than, let's say, and I'm sorry, but like a soccer mom or somebody that's working an 8 to 5 maybe as like a back end person, not under valuing those roles. That's not at all what I'm saying. But maybe a decision that you make as a high performer could impact thousands of employees, or you could lose a lot of money if you make the wrong decision.
True.
If you're not emotionally dialed in, right, you're going to make those mistakes. And so a huge way to help optimize your brain is by making sure your brain is so flexible and has really amazing communication pathways that those mistakes are less and less, right? Another brainwave that we love to help uptrain in our clients' brains that are either professional athletes or executives is a brainwave called gamma. Gamma is associated with a heightened level of conscientiousness and performance. It is one of the hardest brain states to actually get in and stay in, but you can teach your brain how to do that more. The way that, there's only a little bit of research on gamma, but what they did was they went and did EEGs on Buddhist monks. And they wanted to understand, how in the world can these monks stay in this heightened level of meditation, but for so long? So they hooked little EEG monitors up on their brain, and they noticed that they had 50% more gamma production in the brain than the average person.
Wow.
Because gamma, if you see it on an EEG, is this really, really small brainwave that most people only have 1 to 3 microvoltages of.
Wow.
If you can teach that how to get higher, and this is what we do with our clients, they come in saying, oh my gosh, we had a client that said he didn't need to make any more money, and that really wasn't his goal, but he said, I don't know exactly how this relates because this is not what he was coming in for, but he made more money than he had ever made in that annual basis just by what he believes was working on his brain health. So
Wow.
You can tap into the 1, 2, 3% in any capacity, and it should not just be those who are suffering, right? It's for the struggle and the success, both sides of the coin.
Yeah, especially proactively, it has such a benefit. Do emotions lead your neurochemistry, or does your neurochemistry lead your emotions?
Ooh, that's a fantastic
Omar.
question. I would say that your neurochemistry leads your emotions more than your emotions lead. It's kind of the chicken and the egg. Which came first?
I would argue that most people probably live on autopilot, assuming the opposite.
It's not even a question. All of us do. Absolutely. It's kind of that thought, right? That mind over matter, think it, do it, want it, be it. And I'm here for it, right? I'm here for the gratitude. I'm here for the self-talk, all of those things. I want to talk to somebody who suffers with insomnia, right? I bet you tell yourself all day long, I'm going to sleep great tonight. It's going to be the freaking best. I'm falling asleep in 15 minutes. I'm going to stay asleep all night. REM sleep, deep sleep, fire it up. Okay, you lay down, 2 hours later, you are sitting there and your brain is spinning. Okay, finally I fell asleep. I woke up 5 times tonight. I woke up, I am foggy, not rested. How did that work? How'd that go? Probably not well. Your neural pathways takes over. The brain takes the path of least resistance. Same thing if right now, if I expected to go out and I was like, I am going to go out and I'm going to play football and I'm going to be the best. Well, I've never practiced. Haven't thrown a ball in maybe ever, but I'm just going to somehow mind over matter it. We think that those things are different. Somebody's like, well, yeah, of course you haven't practiced. Okay, your emotions are exactly the same. If you have been running the same neural pathway over and over and over, probably since childhood, right? Somebody who's super reactive, that didn't probably happen later. That is a neural pathway that started in early childhood and has been deeply ingrained over the last 30 years. Yeah. So the idea that you're going to wake up tomorrow and manifest a different neural pathway, absolutely not. That's why, we have parents who, man, I lose my freaking mind on my kids or on my spouse. Something happens and I said I was going to be better today. And then I popped off and, chewed some ass and, now I feel so bad and guilty and shame. And how do I change this? Neurochemistry, right? We have to get into the hardware versus the software. Think it, be it, maybe. Do have positive thoughts. Do believe that you can change it. But then actually get into the hardware and let's change it on that neurological level, which will then affect your emotional, social, cognitive level.
I love that because Dr. Joe Dispenza even talks about that, is that most people experience the same emotions over and over again.
That's right.
And they never give themselves a palette of new options because they don't know how to.
They don't know how to.
And it kind of relates back to what we were talking about prior about the fact that similar to what you were saying about, monks or Buddhists when they're meditating, they weren't born like that, right? Most people are born as babies, reacting, crying, goo goo gaga, all over the place. Yeah. And then they learn something through their environment, through their home. They're essentially getting neurofeedback just not intentional neurofeedback, right?
Yeah.
So to speak.
We're all getting feedback all the time. Absolutely.
Right. And so proof of that is that in meditation, the fact that they can extend those waves, proof that you can have a conscious effect on what is going on here. You're not just given a brain and like, oh, well, I guess I got ADHD. I'm at essentially you are happening to your brain, not your brain happening to you, right? If you take
100%.
control of it.
Yeah.
That's really
You
interesting.
can. Yeah, but you're 100%. Most people don't. They just don't even know that they can.
What's the biggest objection you guys get from most people?
People think that we are doing some weird like shockwave therapy or that it's snake oil, like woo-hoo, which if you think about it, at least the way that we practice, it's the most objective way that you can measure your brain progress ever. Because you're looking at numbers and you're looking at data. Versus if you think about it, why do we not question our doctor? Like most of you listening, if you are currently on a pharmaceutical, and no shame if you are, do you even know what that pill does to you every single time you take it? Do you have any clue what that actually does to your brain chemistry? Probably not.
Yeah.
But for us, right, people are like, wait, hold on. So you're going to put electrodes on my head and like I'm going to watch a TV screen and be able to actually control it with my brain? Like, no way. Like, that's so out of the box. Is it though? Right? Because babies can learn how to walk, we can learn how to ride a bike, and we can do all these learned behaviors and we get rewarded in which to do so. And that reward is what teaches the brain how to stabilize its own activity. And so that's probably our biggest thing, is just people thinking that the simplicity of neurofeedback is a lot more scary than it is. They think that we're putting brainwaves in, or shocking the brain.
Or like Elon Musk brain manipulation. Yeah.
Lack of education.
So that's
lack of
really the biggest
knowledge.
thing. No shockwaves.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built, AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai, and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the show.
What is attachment disorder, and how can brain-based therapy help treat it?
Yes. So attachment is formed in early childhood, right? We have anxious attachment, we have disorganized attachment, we have reactive attachment. There's all these different attachment styles. First off, learn your attachment. Understand what your attachment style is.
Does everybody have one form or the other?
Not necessarily. I would say most people gear towards one. Disorganized attachment would be if you're kind of in between, right? Sometimes you're anxious attachment, sometimes you're avoidant attachment. So you can definitely kind of go between. Most people have one that they gear towards. I honestly believe that education and understanding yourself better is probably number one. There's incredible books on that. So if you're unfamiliar with attachment styles, there is a book called Attached. So learn your attachment style first.
We actually have it here.
It's somewhere.
I'm not even kidding. We have it
it's somewhere on here.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. It's a fantastic book. We're very big on learning about yourself and understanding yourself better. So learn your attachment style, and then understanding your neurochemistry. So doing a brain map and understanding where that's coming from. Most people probably know your brain is made up of a bunch of different things. Your biology, what your parents gave you, and then things that have happened to you along the way. Trauma, good experiences help to shape that attachment. If I look at a brain map and somebody has absolutely no alpha wave activity, their brain is in the tank with alpha, zero alpha wave. Always, I'm going to ask, hey, tell me a little bit about your nuclear family growing up. Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
What is an alpha wave?
Alpha is your receptor wave. It's kind of the gear shifter in the car. It helps move our brain up into the fast. It moves it down into the slow. Too much or too little alpha, and we tend to feel very stuck. Someone with no alpha wave activity probably grew up in an insecure environment. They probably did not grow up with a lot of safety, a lot of security, whether that be physical or emotional. And 99.9% of the time when I meet somebody with no alpha, that's why I'm asking that question. Hey, what was going on in your childhood? Did you have an absent parent? Were your parents where there was battles? You probably didn't learn a lot of safety or security. That helps form and shape your attachment style. But rather than, hey, I'm avoidant, it's kind of, I'll leave you before you leave me. That's just how it is. We can learn to change that. Now, this is probably a multifaceted situation that, yes, you can do neurofeedback, and we're going to deal with it on that electrical level, that neurological level. Also, get yourself a fantastic counselor and work through some of those behavioral things. If you are just very accustomed to, the minute I start to feel emotionally connected to someone, I'm like, see you freaking later. This is uncomfortable. You also probably need to process through that and where that came from in your childhood. Sometimes we want health to be a silver bullet. Often it's a puzzle.
I used to map all the guys that I dated before like date number 3.
Sounds healthy.
For sure.
I still do.
Gotta make sure. Before I met my husband, truly, I would just, the first couple of dates, people are interested. They're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you want to find out about brain mapping? Let's do it. And I'll just throw this out there. There was one individual that I mapped, and I, just was taking a look. And this isn't something where it should be scary. Like, oh my gosh, it's unfixable. But in this one area of his brain, which is where a lot of our attachment was formed, he had so much overactivity, which is a signature pattern for some sort of trauma. So what that allowed me to do is just kind of get to know him later on. But honestly, that dude showed so many red flags 2 or 3 dates later. I was like, oop, and there it is. I don't want to be the therapist for that. So if you want to know what you're dealing with, go get a brain map.
I'm not saying it's the best thing we've ever done, but we're not proud of it, but yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to map everybody.
And when it comes to mapping and neurofeedback, for somebody interested, say they're hearing some of this, and we'll get through some more questions, what does it look like from a potential client perspective? So, you guys, they can either do it in person at one of your guys' clinics, or they can do it remote. I know I'm going to be doing one remote as well, so I'm excited for that. But say, for example, someone gets feedback. What does that look like? Is it a report? Is it, tangible, tactical things people can act on? Just for people that want to get a deeper understanding of, once you look at their brain, what does feedback and implementation look like?
It's going to be both. So yes, we are neurospecialists. We believe that everybody can benefit from neurofeedback 100%. And that's generally why people are doing a brain map. They want to do the treatment. They want to change their brain with neurofeedback, which we do have in-person locations, Denver, Dallas, Tulsa. We have a global remote program, so you can do a brain map and neurofeedback from literally anywhere in the world. We also do want to give a lot of tangibles. Hey, your brain is super overactive in this area, right? These are some things that you can do to help change that neurochemistry also on a tangible level. Bilateral stimulation tapping, supplementally, right? Box breathing, all these, we do give a lot of tangible things that those people can do, but it's still tailored. So rather than everybody should do box breathing, probably everybody can do box breathing. There's a benefit.
What is box breathing for people that don't know?
Yeah, so box breathing is a type of breath work that's going to help basically disrupt the stress signal in your brain. So if you are someone, which everybody deals with stress, but especially let's say you're going into a meeting and you're like, I need my brain to be on. I need to be regulated. I need to feel good. Breathing in for 4, holding it for 4, breathing out for 4, and holding it for 4, also known as combat breathing, is a way to actually regulate your central nervous system and bring you into a sympathetic nervous state and out of parasympathetic. It's a great way to bring yourself into parasympathetic and out of a sympathetic nervous state. So it's a perfect way to really regulate your whole body and your central nervous system.
And how does neurofeedback help support people who have, mood instability? Maybe they deal with anger issues, or they're just dealing with a lot, right? Whether you're a mother that, you're raising children, and then you have work, and then you have the house, or say you're a man who's struggling in his business or life, whatever. A lot of us deal with a lot of mood regulation and some challenges there. What are some things that neurofeedback can do to help support, mood stabilization, energy, focus, etc.?
One of my favorite things is to hear testimonies, and a few that come to my mind. We are working right now with a single dad and his daughter, and every single morning his daughter would come down and just get hijacked by something. Like the milk wasn't full enough in her glass, her outfit was messed up, she didn't have her homework ready. I mean, every single morning, this daughter's like struggling already to emotionally regulate herself. So her dad brought her into our clinic and was just he was like, I need to get her some help. So she started doing neurofeedback. And he sent us this amazing message because few weeks into her practice, he goes, my daughter came down, she sat down, she ate her breakfast, we went and got in the car, had a lovely conversation on the way to school, drop her off. He's like, hasn't happened in years.
Wow.
Right? And nothing was different, right? Maybe her milk was still too full or her outfit wasn't perfect, but her brain wasn't sitting in this state of just unregulation from the moment she wakes up, right? So because as we were training her brainwaves into an optimal state, now she's not working against herself. And that's really what so many of us struggle with, is we're working against ourselves neurologically. Your brain should be as flexible as a light switch. If you want it to turn off, you get it to turn off. If it's time to turn it on, you get to turn it on. But most of us don't have that, right? Like you have a hard day at work and you just go home and you can't be present because you can't even still take a full breath. You're just still under stress, or you're overthinking about that thing that happened or that conversation that you had. We get that all the time too, just like the irritable mom that she wants so badly to connect with her family and connect with her kids, but her kids make, one sound or do one thing bad and she flies off the handle. Well, it's because her brain is just taking too much control over her. And so that's what I just love, is hearing client testimonies about people that were overstimulated or angry or impulsive, and all of a sudden they feel like they have the power back. Nothing has fundamentally changed around them. Their husband might be still annoying, their kids are still all over the place, their employees are still driving them crazy, but they get to set the tone. And that's because they regulated the very organ that allows them to set the tone in the first place.
I love that example. And it goes back to the fact that people, if they just never take inventory of their brain, they don't know, what they're running. They don't know the programming or software they're on, right? They're just sort of running on autopilot. Now, a question I have is this is really interesting to me personally, is in that example you gave, you guys help people who are, whether they're in their early teens or younger, up to top 1%ers and everybody in between. Is it harder to essentially train the brain as you get older? Right? Because there's something to be said about, you guys talked about, the brain being malleable, right? You can sort of train it. However, if someone's 15, 16, right? Just like when you're younger, it's easy to learn a new language. As people get older, do their, for lack of better expression, bad habits harden neurologically? Or does the brain stay just as neurologically flexible when you get older as younger? Do you get what I mean?
We get this question a lot, and we do. Like right now, we have the sweetest old man. He's like 85 years old. He's doing our remote program, like in another country. I don't know. He is having amazing results, right? But he wants it. He's also willing to step into a heightened state of awareness of his behaviors and his choices and his emotions. And so I do think the older you get, the little bit more hardened you get in your own bad habits. The older you get, you're also not experiencing as much novelty, right? You kind of do your same thing, your same routine.
Right.
And you're not shaking it up a lot. And, these people need to be taking different routes home, brushing their teeth with their left hand instead of their right hand, just
building new synapses.
You have to be. And we don't, right? We don't do those small things. And so while, yes, we work with clients at all ages and we see incredible changes across the board, there is something to be said that the earlier you start, your brain can change a little bit quicker, and there's not as horribly set in patterns that you've already gotten into. I also think the older you get, the more cerebral you become. You're skeptical. You're not sure, can I change? I've been anxious for 30 years. I don't know if my brain has the ability. And that skepticism, holds a little bit of weight in your ability to change too. You have to want it. You have to be willing to put in the practice. So it's a complex answer, but I'd say across the board, we can help you 100%. But I will say, I think kids can change a little bit quicker on a macro level.
And then what role does brain mapping play in supporting people on the, autism spectrum?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you guys worked with people in that regard as well?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, we work with tons of kids, adults who are on the autism spectrum. And I definitely have had parents come in before and say, can you make my autistic kid not autistic? One, no. And two, we wouldn't want to, right? That's not something that, even if for some reason you could, that, that person is amazing and special and very uniquely and wonderfully made. However, there also can be a lot of other things that go along with being on the autism spectrum. A lot of people with autism struggle with anxiety, struggle with depression, can struggle with learning issues, right? So absolutely, those are things that we 100% are going to and can work on to optimize that person's brain, just like we would help optimize anyone's brain. Okay. But I have had parents come in and ask those questions. So the answer to that is no, but all of the things that go along with that diagnosis, absolutely.
What does it look like on a brain map? Somebody with autism, is that something that you can see? Or is that not something you can see? Like, I guess, what does a brain map look like in terms of what you can see and versus not see? Is something like autism or ADHD, does it show up as waves, or how does it show up from a visual perspective?
One thing that's very interesting is on an EEG. So think of this like little squiggly lines, very much like an EKG of a heartbeat. You can look at a heartbeat and see whether it's regulated and in sync and producing a beautiful rhythmic pattern. We can also see on your EEG, is your brain producing these harmonious, organized wave patterns, or are you carrying a lot of tension, a lot of stress, a lot of dysfunctional wave patterns? So on somebody struggling on, with ASD, it is a lot more chaotic, unorganized. It's abnormal in its patterning that it produces. And there's a lot of different ways that can show itself, but I'd say in general, there's just like a lot of disorganization on the EEG patterns.
What's the best way for people to strengthen their memory and reduce their cognitive decline?
Oof, that goes back to novelty.
Yeah.
You gotta be experiencing novelty if you don't want your brain to just slowly age, right? And so in this obsession, I think that our society is starting to have with longevity, which I love. Like, how can we make sure that we're hacking all things about our biology and our brain? Longevity is this hot buzzword these days. And one of the easiest ways to make sure that you are taking care of yourself is by not getting stuck too much in that same routine. Now, on the other side of that, right, every Instagram person right now, it's like, my morning routine, my afternoon routine. That's great.
Saratoga water.
Right? Yeah. Yes, build an awesome routine to set you up for success. But within those routines, you have to be challenging yourself, right? Learn something new. Angie and I, every single year, are committed to doing something different, whether it's like taking up pickleball, hiring our golf coach again, so that we can like learn how to take some strokes down, learning Spanish, like whatever it is, like we will pick up something new and outside of the box to put ourselves in a state of discomfort. Discomfort allows your brain to grow. But most people, right, we seek comfort. We seek just that ooey gooey feeling that feels easy to us. You need to seek hard. And when you are putting friction in your life intentionally, that is the very thing that will actually help build those blocks that you need as a foundation for aging.
Why by default does the brain seek comfort?
Because naturally, when you're in a state of stress, your defense mechanisms have to pull back to protect yourself, right? You have to seek that. I mean, even just think about it right now. Like, you go into a place and somebody challenges you to like go up to a random person and strike a conversation. Even just that, like, go talk to that random person, go learn about them a little bit. Why is that scary? Like, usually if you go talk to somebody for a second, it's not that bad. Hey, what's up? Where are you from? It's cool. But like our social button gets jacked. Like, what if I say something wrong? Like, what are they going to be like? What's the vibe going to be? You could literally get yourself worked into a state of anxiety just by thinking about putting yourself in a state of discomfort. So then you avoid that. You avoid talking to the person. You avoid doing the hard thing. Cold plunging. I mean, people right now even can look at like an ice bath and you start to notice like your heart starts to race. Oh gosh, I don't want to get cold. Like, oh my gosh. It's just human nature that we are designed to protect ourselves because we have to, right? Like, you don't want to walk out in front of a car because you need to use logic to do that. So it's just like our human design going back to way back when that we have to live in order to protect ourselves.
Hey guys, quick question. Have you been enjoying this video, but you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this content, but I want to learn how to grow my brand or my business? Well, if your answer is yes, you're not alone. In fact, millions of entrepreneurs deal with this exact same issue. And it's something that I've learned the answer to from interviewing 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs around the world. And this philosophy that solves all that is a concept called who, not how. Now, the who, not how philosophy states that anytime you're stuck on the hows to get to the next level in your life, your brand, or your business, that there's always a who to help you get there. And it's for this exact reason that I'm super excited to announce that I've officially launched our brand new Passionate Few community to help you do exactly that. And yes, it's 100% free. Join me and the thousands of other entrepreneurs that can help you make your life, your business, and your dreams a reality. With no further ado, let's get back to the video.
How important is negative and positive self-talk on the brain? You know, a lot of people think, you know, we talked in the last interview that your subconscious can't take a joke, but how important, or what part of neurofeedback do you guys recommend in treating people or helping people is that, right? Because so many people, we talk all day long, but how often do we take inventory of what we're saying to ourselves in our own head, right? Most people come home and they don't go, you know, I'm grateful for this. I feel wonderful about this. You know, it's mostly, oh shit, I got to do that. Oh crap, I got to do this. So most people are not taking control of their mental dialogue. What has the research shown in terms of, you know, self-talk and its effects on the brain?
Yeah, so actually in the last podcast, Rachel shared a story about water, and there was a Dr. Emoto who did this study with water, and he had students speak to one set of water bottles, negative talk, I hate you, you're not worthy, you can't do it, and to another set of water bottles, I love you, you are worthy, you are capable. Froze both of the water bottles, and then looking at those, basically the patterns underneath a microscope, the negative patterns were disorganized and ugly and incongruent, and the positive patterns were beautiful and harmonious and worked. That is absolutely, we see that in EEG patterns, that with people who are struggling with anxiety and depression and all of these other things, their EEG patterns look extremely disorganized. They look very incongruent. So what you speak to yourself absolutely matters. And I actually love what you said, that your subconscious, it doesn't know how to take a joke. Your brain cannot tell the difference between reality and what you're saying to it. So if you tell yourself every day, oh, you're so stupid, you can't do it, you're not capable. Your brain cannot tell the difference if that's actually real or it's not. It is real to your brain. So repeat that over and over and over a lifetime. You can't do it, right? Whatever you tell yourself, that is reality. So what you speak to yourself 100% matters. It matters to your brain. So even if you don't believe it, right? Tell yourself you can do it. Even if you don't believe it, if you're saying that out loud and you're telling your brain that, your brain also can't tell the difference between that. So that will also make you more capable.
One of the best ways too is like, find your friends and people that you trust and commit to challenging yourself to stop doing that same narrative. Like Angie and I will do this to each other. If she says something and I'm like, oop, reframe that. Like, oh, well, my sleep was a wreck last night. My sleep, like, okay, I experienced not the best night of sleep, not last night. And I will make her say it, right? So we constantly are challenging one another to not only reframe, but restate and claim the energy that is literally projecting out of our mouths, because it carries so much more weight than people say. And to be honest, I think people are just, we walk around and the level of negative self-talk is really, it's impressive, to be honest. And not only does it impact those around us, but you're changing you at a cellular level. You just can't see it, right? Because the words, you can't see it unless you were to like look at it through some sort of imaging, like the frequencies that are coming from your mouth. They carry so much weight.
Yeah, we were talking, I think, in the last pod about, I listened to this Joel Osteen tape where he was talking about you can't speak words of defeat and expect victory. Same thing with Tony Robbins. I've done a lot of his coaching. And one of the things he talks about is transformational vocabulary, that you cannot feel what you do not express, right? So you can't feel phenomenal. You can't feel ecstatic. Even when it comes to things like making love to a partner, right? There are certain emotional states that unless you go there, you cannot on autopilot experience, right? If someone says, how was the movie? Oh, it was good. Oh, this is good. Oh, this is bad. Oh, it sucked. Versus, oh, it was amazing. Or like you guys mentioned with sleep, there's distinctions. Well, I didn't have the best night, but tonight I'm going to try this. Is that you literally are kind of like ChatGPT programming your mind. You give ChatGPT a bad prompt, it'll give you, you know, limited responses. You give it a better prompt, it'll give you better responses. Our brain is like a ChatGPT that we get for free. 100%. And most of us never sort of consciously program it. So I love that you guys, you know, mentioned that part of it as well.
Your brain's a For You page on Instagram. What are you know, what are you searching? What are you putting in? Why am I getting all these weird videos? That's all you. Absolutely. Why do I feel negative? Why do I feel depressive? What are you talking to your friends about? What are you saying to yourself every time you look in the mirror? What's the subconscious story, narrative that you're giving yourself. That matters.
Gottman's 5-to-1 ratio is so powerful that a lot of people don't know about. So there's a famous therapist that did this study on the ratios of information being passed between usually a husband and a wife, right? And usually it's like, you look so handsome today, Omar, you look great, right? But you didn't do this, you forgot that, oh my gosh, you didn't pick up the kids when I asked, right? And so maybe I only said one negative thing, but I told you were so handsome earlier this morning.
Thank
Should
you.
be even, right? Should be totally even.
Right.
But research actually shows that for every one negative exchange, you have to have 5 positive for there to be an actual energetic balance. And that is crazy if you think about it. And this is why so many relationships are so dysfunctional and carry so much heaviness in them, because we're not expressing the things that we're grateful for. And we're not really dialed into how incredibly heavy those negative micro communications are on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And you cannot feel what you do not express. Yeah. Like how often does somebody do the right thing, even in business, right? With your employees or whatever, they do everything they're supposed to. They kill it. You don't say anything, but they mess up. Why did you mess up? Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about this. You reprimand them. And so now it builds this culture of that when it's like a quick compliment here or there could have mitigated it from the beginning.
Rachel and I actually call it marbles in the jar. And so with all of our employees,
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, marbles in the jar. We use it all the time. How many marbles do we have in the jar with so-and-so? Because we need to have a tough conversation. If we have not been putting marbles in that jar, we're about to take we're going to take some out.
Deposit in.
Yeah, we're going to withdrawal. Are we withdrawing? If we only have 2 marbles in there, one negative conversation is probably 20 marbles. So we are constantly checking each other. Hey, and also we'll kind of say things between each other. I talk about like kind of talking behind somebody's back. Man, John's killing it. That employee, he's doing so well. Have you told him that? Oh, because we'll say it to that person. And that we're putting marbles in the jar constantly along the way. So yeah, when we need to take a withdrawal, which honestly, it could even be a little withdrawal. With most employees, it's big because it's coming from somebody who matters to them, their boss. There needs to be marbles in that jar to be able to take out so they're not running on empty.
I love it. It's true in an organizational context and even on a personal level, right? 100%. Marbles in our own jar. Because so often we feel guilty. It's almost like weird. Like I remember even growing up at the dinner table, when I started getting into personal development and all this stuff, I'd like tell my family like, hey, what are you guys grateful for? But they thought it was so weird because on autopilot, everyone's complaining about work, pissed off about this person from traffic. My sister's complaining about, she was in medical school at the time. And so it's almost like a place to brain dump.
Yeah.
And like positivity doesn't just show up. Right? It doesn't show up in a relationship. It doesn't show up anywhere. And so it's like, you almost have to be proactive about it, right? Where seeds don't grow, weeds do. And what happens in the brain, it's catastrophic, the compounded effect of that.
Rachel and I are so I would say our love language is question asking. We are
Same.
We're wild about question asking. So actually when we're on vacation or we're having, group stuff, we always, even with like a girls' night, it's, hey, let's go around the table and what is something that everybody wants to accomplish before they die? Hey, what was the best part of your week? Go now. And it's actually become, it's a way of life for us and our friend group now. And I'm sure the first time we did it, they were like,
weirdos.
Freaking weird. I love it that your family's coming. Everybody, could you tell me your gratitude list now? Like it is so weird. Make it a way of life. And honestly, so when Rachel's married, I'm not. When I'm dating people and I'll introduce them to Rachel and Don, every single time we get done, and I won't prep them for it, one of the biggest red flags I have is them not asking my family questions. Because Rachel will fire off questions for 2 hours. She is question, Don's question. If that person, maybe they can volley one back. Well, Don, what about you? Where are your questions? Are you not inquisitive? Do you not want to get to know them? Questions are everything.
Do you brain map them as well?
Listen, if they can't answer a question, why would I need to? I already know what's going on out there. I don't have to take a look. I already know.
Yeah, it's not worth wasting time.
For sure.
Another question people wrote in are, what are the best tools to support people in recovery from PTSD, and how can neurofeedback help that?
So we work with thousands of first responders. I think I said that when you first had us, and it's one of our number one focuses, number one passion. PTSD is oftentimes on a list of some of their goals. Not always. That you might. Sometimes people think everybody that's a first responder would struggle with something like PTSD. Not actually often. However, PTSD, it can be very huge with first responders. And so first and foremost, we like to understand how that trauma impacted them specifically, because truly trauma looks so different from person to person. We are very, very, very big believers that it is a piece of the puzzle. It is a puzzle piece, right? And oftentimes what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the same person in an order of operation. For example, love EMDR and brain spotting. If you don't know what EMDR is, it's eye movement rapid desensitization. It's a therapy technique that you utilize to help disrupt the brain from holding on to that same trauma. And you talk about it so that you're not getting triggered in the moment that you're experiencing it or thinking about it or talking about it. Brain spotting too, you're identifying different areas of the brain that are holding on to that trauma. You work with a trained therapist to help the brain get unstuck out of that area. In quick summary, a lot of our responders, they can't even talk about the trauma that they went through without getting completely dysregulated or hijacked. Wow. So sometimes we need to start with the neurofeedback and actually teaching their brain and their nervous system how to regulate, so that then we can tee them back up to the talk therapist or the EMDR specialist that they're working with. Sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes like somebody will never, ever, ever want to talk about a trauma, and that's where you got to go. Like you need to go work with a therapist and get out of your own way and go do that hard work. And then maybe we can kind of calm their brain down after they go have a really tough therapy session with whoever they're working with. So that awareness in general, I think a lot of times people that go through trauma, they don't want to face it. They don't want to talk about it, right? Joe Dispenza talks a lot about trauma too, and how it impacts you at a cellular level. You have to find a way in which to heal your brain and your body, or else you're ultimately going to be kind of always at the mercy of how your brain and your body are operating together.
What's the biggest challenge that you find most people have when it comes to sort of believing that they have a role or can impact positively training their brain? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are interested, but of course skeptical. Is this woo-woo? If this was popular, why did I not hear about it? What's the biggest obstacle that you find most people typically have in terms of limiting belief that they can make better with their brain, that they can make better by training? Anything like that you guys encounter?
One thing that comes to thought is from a limiting belief, I think, right? Everything has a dollar amount to it. So you have to decide, gosh, is this an expense or is this an investment? We have clients that have saved every dollar to train their brain and get to the root of why they're having symptoms in the first place. So I think, expense, the fact that so many important key therapies are not covered by insurance is a barrier. We live in a society where sometimes you have to use your insurance, and that's the only way that you can get the help that you need. And right now, like, there is a neurofeedback code. A lot of us neurofeedback therapists, we don't want to bill it because there's just the reimbursement rates are not great. So that's getting down into like a whole soapbox of information. But that would definitely be a limiting factor, is just your mindset around your health. Every single part of your health is an investment, from the groceries that you buy, to the food that you eat, to the people that you hire, to the therapy that you do. And while you probably can't do everything if you're working on a limited budget, sometimes you have to commit to your health before everything else. I can't tell you how many people come into us like, you got your nails done, maybe you have a cute outfit. I know that you went and had martinis multiple times this month. Like, what do you prioritize? And if you get really, really clear with yourself, most people have the ability to invest in their health.
And how much would it cost them not to, right? Like, that's an area to consider, is like, okay, this might cost me a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, but how much would it cost me not to, in terms of sleep, time, money, energy, relationships, family, etc.? So I love that you guys bring
how
that
much
up.
has it already cost you? That
Right.
if we were to fire up some numbers on what it already has cost you by losing that job, by losing that relationship, by all these other things, I bet that sticker price is shocking.
And this is a heavy topic, but suicide,
Right.
I can't tell you how many people have come to us and they're like, I wish that we had gotten our kid or my husband or my wife help before, that they decided to end their own life, right? Like, what is a life? What value does that have? And again, we live in such a reactive instead of a proactive mindset. Usually when it comes to mental health, we're doing all the things. We're doing gua sha on our face. We're getting the best Pilates gym membership. We're doing a lot of things as a society, I do think, to start to really prioritize health. But what are you really doing as a foundation for your brain? And how are you actually investing in that organ?
No, very good points. I want to bring up 3 more quick ones that people wrote in about. One of them is migraines. How can people who have habitual headaches, migraines, start to really get better using, brain maps, neurofeedback? Obviously, it's personalized to them when you guys work with them. But generally speaking, what do you guys find is a way to mitigate the pattern of migraines that people might have that gets in the way of day-to-day life?
Oh my gosh, we treat migraines every single day. And especially people who struggle with really severe migraines, often they've done all the things. I rarely see people on the front end. Got a headache yesterday, thought I'd try neurofeedback. It's like, I've been having migraines for 20 years. I'm on all these meds. And actually, I've treated literally thousands of people with migraines. There is one specific client who's coming to mind, pastor of a mega church, who came to us, horrible, crippling migraines. It was probably, and he does the remote program, probably 3 months in, he was like, Angie, I went from having several migraines a week that I was down and out in a dark room, had to take work off. He's like, I haven't had a migraine in 4 weeks.
Wow.
And also it's so interesting. People are like, but maybe it's just a weird month. Maybe something else has changed.
Yeah.
For sure.
Possibly something else. I started drinking water, whatever it is. And then the next month it's like, I only had one last month and it wasn't that bad, right? I still went to work. Migraines are so incredible because it's so awful, right? That anxiety, sometimes it's kind of the, your 10 goes to a 5, but the 5 is the new 10. So you're like, is it, that much better? Like, what does that look like? Migraines, they're either there or they're not. You're either in pain or you're not. Migraines are, oh my gosh, it's incredible. Neurofeedback is a phenomenal way to work on migraines.
In that case, what were some examples of things he did to help work on that?
So it was the neurofeedback treatment. So he did not change anything else about his life. There was no behavioral changes. There was no supplemental changes. The only thing he changed was doing brain training. So we did a brain map on him. We created very specific individualized neurofeedback protocols that he was doing 4 times a week. So he would put on the remote headset. He had an app on the phone. And essentially what he was experiencing was very passive. He was watching a show. He was listening to sounds. What his brain was doing on the back end, it's like PT for the brain. So his brain was jumping through all these hoops. His neural pathways were hitting all of these thresholds to train it out of the patterns that were creating the migraines in the first place.
And so the apps you guys have help support that. So they're like systems that are played that people
so it's a wearable device. So literally you have a headset on. It has all of the electrodes, these electrodes embedded into it. The electrodes are not putting any stimulus into the brain. This is not shock therapy. The electrodes are picking up information. And then the feedback loop of neurofeedback is the electrodes are going to pick it up. It's going to go into the software and then be fed back to you through visual and auditory forms of reward. Those are visual auditory forms of novelty stimulus. So it's actually giving your brain, feeding it back information based off of the protocols that we have put into the software. So we've told it, reward this, inhibit this. Once your brain is actually doing what we're asking it to, which our brains are constantly seeking novelty stimulus. That's why we like video games. That's why we like social media. Nobody gives you a cookie when you win a video game. Your brain gets lights and sounds and action. So your brain is being fed this novelty stimulus when it's producing appropriate wave activity. And we do those things enough times over time that we commit that new pattern to permanency.
And what's the protocol for helping people with concussions or traumatic brain injuries? I know both of you guys on the prior interview talked about some of the challenges you guys had with your own that made you guys so passionate about the brain and helping people. But what are some things people who, maybe they're in sport or for whatever other reason, they've had trauma to the brain. What are some conscious things or protocols that you recommend them to help optimize and, recover more cognitively?
Definitely. So my story is of skull fracture, traumatic brain injury. The interesting thing about there's a ton of different types of brain injuries, right? There's physical brain injuries that somebody, had a concussion or multiple small concussions. A lot of really small concussions create a very large problem because they compound on top of each other. Versus I actually believe that somebody can heal better from one large brain injury, depending on the type of brain injury, versus a lot of smaller brain injuries create very, very large issues, which is what you see with NFL players and CTE and all of these other things, that multiple concussion pattern. But we're going to individualize everything. So everything that we do, every brain injury looks different. Every concussion pattern looks different. So there's never a one size fit all. So it depends on how did that brain manifest that problem? How is it showing for them? Is this a more reactive person? Is this a person who's a lot slower and having memory issues? Is this somebody who can't sleep? Everything's going to be totally tailored. And that's the beauty of the way that we do neurofeedback. Everything's completely individualized to that person.
Beautifully put. You guys are so passionate about this stuff. I love it.
We love it.
The last question we got written in, we just flew past the 12, is how can people struggling with insomnia retrain their brain for better sleep? So how can people who are struggling with sleep or insomnia retrain their brain for better sleep? What are some things you guys have seen that really work?
I think that gets back to the hardware versus software issue. Like if you actually have clinical insomnia and you have tried everything, right? We see people they are like drugging an elephant to go to sleep at night, yet somehow they're still not sleeping. You might seriously need like a more hefty intervention. I think a lot of us don't set ourselves up well for sleep in the first place. So we talked about this right on the first one, where what are you doing before you go to sleep? Are you doom scrolling? Are you overthinking? Are you watching TV? Like TV before bed, guys, like get a different hobby. It's just not serving you well.
Turn it off.
Now, okay, like if you want to binge watch your show here and there, it's crazy how addicted people are to TVs. It's insane to me. I'm not really a big TV watcher, but don't be watching TV before you go to sleep. Definitely don't have a TV in your bedroom.
Right.
If you leave this podcast, take the TV out of your bedroom. That is not an appropriate place, and you will never get solid sleep if you have a TV in your bedroom. Making sure that you're not caffeinating too late during the day. I truly would encourage people to not have caffeine a solid 8 hours before they go to sleep. Same thing with sugar, like making sure you're not creating all these glucose spikes before you go to sleep. Critical. What is your sleep hygiene as far as like your bedroom atmosphere? What does that situation look like? Are there a lot of blue lights? Do you have a lot of, or do you sleep next to a Wi-Fi router? That Wi-Fi router should be as far away from your bedroom as possible. So again, depends on if it's a software issue, lots of things that you can control as a person to set yourself up for success. If it's a hardware issue, it really might be about resetting the hardware and getting to the root of why that sleep issue is happening in the first place.
Beautifully put. You guys covered all 12 of the topics. That was really good. Before we wrap up, I have quick 2 questions, and I'm curious. I wanted to do it off the cuff. So my first question is, after all these years of study on the brain and serving thousands of people, what's the most surprising thing you guys each have personally learned about the brain that kind of still fascinates you?
I would say one of the most fascinating things I have seen is that truly every single brain is 100% unique and individual. Yes, we see common patterns. A lot of people have overactivity. A lot of people have underactivity. But that there are no 2 brains that are exactly the same. It does not exist. So the idea that we kind of make these one size fit all plug and play things for health makes absolutely no sense to me. Everything should be completely individualized and tailored to that person when it comes to health, when it comes to life, because you are completely unique and individual. So I love doing brain maps. I love doing map reviews because there are no 2 that will ever look the same. So, and sometimes Rachel and I are, so we've done this for so long that I'll meet somebody and I'm like, I bet I can tell you what your brain looks like. I love when I see one that surprises me. I'm like beta on the cingulate, theta in the prefrontal. And then I'll look at the map and I'm like, what? It's so interesting and fascinating, right? It's like art, that art is so individual to the person. What do you like? What do you not like? I see patterns. I'm like, that's so incredible. That's so beautiful because it's so unique to that person. To this day, brains fascinate me every single day.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. How about yourself,
One
Rachel?
of my favorite things about the brain is that we can see things like toxic exposure, mold disease, Lyme. After COVID happened, it was crazy. Like, I actually made a post because I was seeing all this observational data on these brain maps. And I would come to Angie and I'd be like, this is insane. Like, I think more QEEGs need to be done post-COVID because I swear there's a signature pattern right after somebody has COVID, which is why some people, not everybody, were experiencing, major cognitive fog, memory issues, significant fatigue after they got COVID.
Right.
It's interesting now there is QEEG, there is proof. And so that is what I love, is that the brain and the body are holistic. Like, this is your vehicle for life. And so what are you doing to take care of that vehicle? Because I think so many people think that, it's like your brain and your body, or I'm going to do legs today, I'm going to do biceps, I'm going to do abs. Like, all of it is so interconnected. We can see on a brain map, like, and we don't tell them necessarily, we'll tell them to go get some updated labs or go do some hormone testing, but we can tell if people are struggling with, say, low testosterone or oxidative stress issues. And so those brain maps allow us to not only open the door to what we can do to help them with neurofeedback, but also give them some answers, or at least direct them to a practitioner that might have those answers that they would have never discovered in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense. And where can people find you guys if they want to learn more about what you guys do at the Brain Code Centers and want to get in touch, do a consultation?
Yeah, first off, follow us on Instagram at Brain Code Centers. We do so many brain health tips. We talk a lot about QEEG, and then braincodecenters.com. Either of those places, you can sign up for a fully free consultation. Rachel and I do most of the consultations for the company. So we would love to get to know you better. Like we said, everybody's brain is individual. So we want to talk to you. We want to understand your brain and your goals. So we start with a free consultation, and braincodecenters.com or at braincodecenters, you can DM us and we'd love to talk more.
Beautiful. And then one last thing we do is at the end of every episode, we play a quick game. The game's called First Things First. So the way the game works is essentially I'll just rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you guys just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So think of it like a fun word or phrase relation game. Make sense? And on this one, you guys can both play. So I'll say a word, and then you guys can both say the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice. Make
Deal.
sense?
Yeah.
All right. First word, you guys ready? The brain.
Sexy.
Neurofeedback.
Money.
Gotta have it.
Tithe.
Cognitive function.
Critical.
Level the F up.
Biggest limiting belief people have about their brain.
It's inflexible.
Imposter syndrome.
Best advice you guys have ever been given about the brain.
It's capable of anything.
Train it.
Biggest misconception people have about their own brain.
You're stuck.
You're incapable.
Brain maps.
Sexy.
The best. Most underutilized.
The biggest transformation that you've seen that comes to mind in someone who's done a brain map and changed a huge area of their life.
Green Beret, on 15 different medications, crippled, 200 pounds overweight, literally life changed, off no meds, dropped all the weight, said we saved his life.
6-year-old who was adopted, reactive attachment disorder, trying to hurt the other kids in the family. Literal most transformative thing I've ever seen. Was able to emotionally attach to other people, said I love you to his parents, changed my life, changed his life.
Your favorite part about the brain?
Brainwaves?
Prefrontal cortex.
Now, last one. What a healthy brain should look like on a brain map.
There's no perfect brain.
No, there's not one.
It's all about optimizing your brain and your best asset. And just like you don't want to make an engineer a musician, right? You have to have different skills that we all bring to the table with God-given gifts that we all have. But it's about refining your own gifts as a human being.
No two bodies look the same. And if we expect to look like someone else, we have to work within our biology. But your brain can be the best version of your brain. And maybe it already is. If it's not, work towards that. It has that capability.
Well said. And then the last one, a little bonus one here, is we ask every guest at the end, is the last question, is when you guys are dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust, what do you guys hope your life's work was all about?
my number one value, because I've done a lot of value work. If you haven't done that, go do value work, is impact.
Yeah.
So I deeply believe that I already have made it my mission and we have impact. But I do hope people look back and they say that Brain Code Centers was a sanctuary where they found hope and where they found life change.
If more people understand themselves better, if more, and honestly, this is not to be dramatic, if more lives are saved because more people have an understanding of their brains and that their brains are capable of change, we will pass on and be just fine. Very happy.
Beautiful. Well, hopefully here today we helped enlighten some minds, literally. And if you guys want to get in touch with Rachel or Angie, you guys can follow them in the description down below. We'll put some links for them. And check out Brain Code Centers to book your free consultation today. Any final words of wisdom to people out there?
Thank you so much for having us. We're always trying to make brains sexy again.
Thank you guys so much.
You.
Guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow them down below. And until next time, live strong, live with passion, and go make those dreams a reality. We'll see you guys on the next episode.